Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. My name is Ginger Pierce, and I am one of the travel agents with Marvelous Mouse Travels. We are the agency that runs this Facebook group, along with several others that are focused on different destinations. And we are also an earmarked platinum authorized Disney vacation planner agency. And that just means that we are recognized by Disney as providing exceptional customer service and also as being experts in their vacation product. Welcome to Sundays with MMT. This is a weekly live video series that we do in one of our Facebook groups every Sunday night at 8 p.m. Eastern. And we're really excited to be here with you tonight to talk to you about Disney World's newest attraction, and that is Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind at Epcot. So, one of our agents was recently able to attend a media event to experience that. And then I recently got to experience it on my family vacation to Disney World. So we're going to kind of answer some of the burning questions about that experience. There's a lot of information out there on the internet, so we're going to kind of speak to it from our own personal experiences with it. But we would also love to take any questions that you might have about it. And we would also love to hear your thoughts. If you've been lucky enough to get to ride this experience yet, we would love to hear what you thought about it as well. So we are going live using a platform called StreamYard tonight, and StreamYard might ask you if you want to post a comment to approve it to display your username and profile picture. Just know that you don't have to approve that. You can actually decline that and post and still interact with us anonymously. So I'm joined tonight by one of our marvelous agents, Donna. Donna, thank you so much for being here with us tonight. And please take a little bit of time to tell everybody how long you've been with the agency and the best way for people to contact you if they're interested in planning a trip.
Hey, thanks, Ginger. Hi. So, yeah, my name is Donna or Donna Marie. I am a travel agent with Marvelous Mouse Travels. I've been with the agency for about 5.5 years now. So it's been I'm having a good time. And if you want to reach me, my email is on the screen, Donna Marie at marvelousmousetravels.com.
And again, my name is Ginger. I just celebrated my 4-year anniversary with the agency last month. And the best way to reach out to me is to visit my blog, which you can find at gingermmt.com. So we also have a special guest who's with us tonight. And this is my husband, Evan, who is typically in the back end, running all of the behind the scenes stuff. He's the one that's putting our pictures up on the screen and our lower thirds and things like that. So he's always with us for Sundays with MMT. He's just usually not visible. But Evan is a huge roller coaster fan. All three of us, Donna, Evan, and myself, are all huge Marvel fans. And so because Evan and I recently got to ride this too, he's going to kind of pop on and share some of his thoughts with it as well. Evan, you want to show everybody your shirt before we get started? If you're a Guardians fan, you'll love this shirt. I'm Mary Poppins, y'all. Y'all do.
I have that shirt. I actually went with my MMT shirt tonight, but I've got that one. I should have worn it. We could have been twinning. Who knew?
I know. Y'all could have been twinning. That would have been
adorable. Cute. Love it.
So, Donna, since you got to attend the media event, before we jump into kind of talking about the specifics of Cosmic Rewind itself, tell us a little bit about what a Disney media event is like. Like, what were some of the things you got to do and all of that?
It was kind of a combination. So the media event focused on the opening of the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, but it was also kind of like the 50th anniversary showcase. So we've got to partake in a couple of different things. So as an earmarked agency, we were invited to attend. There were a couple of exclusive events. One of them was at Hollywood Studios at Galaxy's Edge. We had a private dessert party over by the Millennium Falcon. So that was very, very cool. And we got to sample some fun desserts. I was told that they're similar, and you would probably know about this, Ginger, to some of the desserts that you would find on the Cruise Galaxy. What am I blanking? The Star Cruiser.
The Star Cruiser.
So yeah. So some similar desserts that you find on the Star Cruiser. So that was great. And again, it was a private party, and it was just really neat being in there at night, kind of just having that area. There was a good crowd of us, but it was just the media and some other, the agencies as well. And it was funny because it went till about 10 o'clock at night, and they had the stormtroopers kicking us out, and in not a very nice way, in a stormtrooper way. So they were just basically like, get out. And so it was actually a good time. So that was fun. So that was the first night. And then the second day we got to ride Guardians of the Galaxy during the day, and we could ride as many times as we want. So we had like unlimited rides, which was really neat because you do want to spend some time looking at spending some time at the queue, and we'll talk about that as well. And then later that night was a private party in Epcot, so that whole area was closed off. They had a band playing 80s cover music similar to what you would hear in the movie. I guess 70s and 80s, right? 70s, right? Am I getting my decade wrong?
Right.
Sorry.
70s
Yeah,
80s,
70s. Yeah. So they had a band there, so that was really cool. And gosh, I don't want to botch who it is. It's the I'm blanking right now. Anyway, the chairman, and I'm blanking. He's amazing, and I can't think of his name right now. I'm going to kick myself after. Anyway, we got to meet him.
Josh Demario.
Thank you, Josh Demario.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Oh, he was awesome. He's the most personable guy. Anyway, so he was there. He kind of emceed the event, kicking it off, and then tons of food and drinks all around. It was just a really good party vibe, and then also getting to ride again. So we had lots of Guardians of the Galaxy experiences, and they had some like fireworks and pyrotechnics that they shut off. So it was definitely they put on an amazing event as in true Disney style. So it was great.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I wasn't a part of this one, but I can tell you from like special events and stuff that I've gotten to do at Disney, they do it right. Like they know how to throw a party.
Yeah. They had really neat, like themed,
yeah.
all the food was themed after Guardians of the Galaxy. So that was really fun, just to kind of walk around and see all the different things that they had there. So
absolutely. Well, that sounds awesome. So let's talk a little bit about the storyline of the ride, because that's one of the things that I think Disney always does so well is that you're not just riding a roller coaster that's just a roller coaster. Like you're immersed in a story. So let's tell everybody a little bit about kind of the storyline of the Guardians ride.
Yeah. So when you first walk in, the way that I learned about it, how like they kind of separated the front entrance, I don't know if you noticed, into like two sort of separate areas. When you first walk in, I think it's called like the Galaxarium. Or like a planetarium. Yep, it's kind of this really cool vast room, and it feels like you're looking up into space. So the queue area, it makes that like a nice, interesting area to wait. It is all enclosed, so at least it's nice and air conditioned once you're in there. Mm-hmm. And then you start moving on to oh gosh, I don't have my notes in front of me. So you're kind of experiencing why they chose Epcot, right, in this area. So you're looking through this whole like little vignettes of things from there, showcasing things from their planet. So there's like little model planes and like a model of of their planet. So as you're walking through that stuff, lots of little cute Easter eggs, some videos that are playing on loop that you can watch, like there's like a morning show spoof where they're interviewing Gamora and Quill. So that was fun. So yeah, Peter Quill, sorry.
Yeah. And one thing about the morning show spoof, that morning show makes it pretty obvious that the events of Guardians of the Galaxy Cosmic Rewind happen after Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1, the first movie, because they're referencing things in that movie.
Yes.
But if you haven't seen the movies, you're still gonna love it because it is fantastic. But that if you've seen the movies, that's just one little added bonus you'll get from having seen them.
That's exactly how I felt. If you had no idea what was going on, the characters are so appealing and funny that it's just entertaining to watch them and listen to the things that they're saying. So you don't even have to know who they are.
Yeah. And, this is one thing that, it's a little bit different with this ride than maybe some of the others. They don't allow you past a certain point to video or photograph anything. And so, they want to kind of preserve a little bit of the mystery of the ride, but, not to spoil too much of it. You are something stolen and you're kind of helping the Guardians find it. But in doing that, you're kind of sent back through time and space. So and it's really, really interesting. So really, Evan, thank you for showing that picture. Once you get to this point, you're really not allowed to film or video anything. So that's why we don't have any footage or anything of like the actual ride vehicles themselves or anything like that.
Yeah, technically, you're not supposed to record anything. I can neither confirm nor deny that there may have been people in line with us that were recording things, but you're not supposed to. And since Marvelous Mouse Travels is an earmarked platinum agency
Mhm.
with Disney, we're going to
We're
make
very
sure that,
compliant. Yes,
yes.
we are very compliant with the rules. Absolutely. I might be able to say the same thing as you, Evan. I cannot confirm or deny, but I might have seen some cameras recording anyhow. So yeah, that's one of the things that's nice though. I do like that it keeps some things a mystery and kind of exciting and new so that you can, go on with a fresh experience and not, like a ride through. So, so
Absolutely.
so yeah, that's the part that sets the stage for the next ride. So when you're in that room, watching everything, that's what your mission is at that point.
And I have to say that I was so impressed by the technology of this ride. Like, especially in that room right before, you go to where you're going to board your ride vehicle. It's amazing. I mean, literally, there is one point where everyone in that room goes, like, how did that just happen? Like, it's honestly like it felt like Disney magic, but like,
Mm-hmm.
it was really, really impressive. And I still don't know how they did it. Like, I was looking around trying to like figure out, the mechanics behind how that worked, and I couldn't do it. So I was just like, I guess we got teleported to space, like, because I really can't explain it any other way. But it's top of the line, top notch in terms of the technology. But let's share with everybody a little bit about like what type of ride this is. Like, how would you, Donna or Evan, how would y'all describe what this ride is?
So I know there's like a name for it. Is it like the Omni Coaster or something? So it's basically like taking, and this is how I've heard it described as well, but you say you take the ride vehicles at Haunted Mansion, how they're on a very controlled spin, or over a Buzz Lightyear, where it's a very controlled spin, although you don't get to move it yourself, it's doing it on its own. And a little bit of Space Mountain, right? Because you're in an enclosed roller coaster, in like the roller coaster's encased, right? So you've got that element to it, and you're kind of got that space, but it's really nothing like any of those, if that makes sense. It's the smoothest
Yes.
ride I have ever been on,
Yes.
and the way that I would describe it is because you've got music playing. It's such a fun ride. You feel like you're almost dancing through space as you're on it. You're just kind of gliding and you're moving to where you need to see what's happening, because you've got big screens all around you. So I know that the ride is not the easiest ride to get on right now, and we'll talk strategy about that as well, but it is something that if you can ever get back on it again, you want to ride it more than once because you're going to miss stuff. So that is a nice thing. So even if you rode it once, it's not like, all right, one and done. No, it's something that you would definitely want to ride again. And the music also can change. So you'll get a different experience as well.
Yeah. And
Absolutely.
let's talk about that music for just a second. Evan, I think you have the list of songs that you can get, right?
I do. So there are 6 different songs that will play in your ride vehicle as you're on the ride. September by Earth, Wind, and Fire. Disco Inferno by the Tramps. That was actually the first time I wrote it. That
I was
was
going to say
like,
that's what was on with mine.
uh,
That's a good one. I like
wasn't
that.
it awesome? It was so
Yes.
fun.
Very
And
cool.
I think Donna used the best word I've heard yet to describe the ride when she used the word gliding. That's really what you feel like, because it does spin. It's nothing like the teacups. It is nothing like that. But it is a controlled spin because they're turning you to face where they want you to look on the ride, and it is. I mean, it is like Donna said. It is so smooth. I think Space Mountain is a good analogy, but whereas Space Mountain's kind of jerky, this one is not jerky at all. It's just you're inside like you are in Space Mountain,
Mm-hmm.
and you can see way more in this than you
Yeah.
can in Space Mountain, because that's part of the thing is they want you to see certain things of the story that's happening, and it is so smooth. And when I got disco into burn baby burn, I mean, like, it was so fun, just like hearing that as you're gliding through. It was, so I wrote it 3 times. I had 3 different songs. Disco Inferno was the first one. It was the funnest. Ginger, the song she got on her first time is the song I got on my second time, and that was One Way or Another. By Blondie. And then I Ran by Flock of Seagulls, Conga by Gloria Estefan, and Everybody Wants to Rule the World by Tears for Fears. And so the three songs I got, the first was Disco Inferno. It was the funnest one because it just made it like upbeat and happy, you know, that kind of thing. And then the second one was One Way or Another, and then I Ran was the third one I got. I think September and Conga would both be a really fun one to have too, because it just makes it fun and upbeat because you can hear it loud and clear as you're riding through the ride.
And those are all songs off of the soundtrack for Guardians of the Galaxy. So if you are a fan of those movies, you know, you're going to recognize the songs from that. And actually, Disney just emailed out earlier this week that at Christmas time, the soundtrack is actually going to change to Christmas music. So that'll be kind of cool to see which ones they choose and all that kind of, how that kind of changes the feel or the vibe. Because, you know, it was interesting to me how it does kind of change the experience a little bit when the song playing changes, because like I did have that kind of fast paced One Way or Another the first time, and then the second time I had I Ran by a flock of seagulls, and it was still cool, but it felt different than the first time I wrote it. And so I'm kind of interested to see how the Christmas music is going to feel or maybe change the experience when they do that. So I guess we'll have to go back and see.
I wonder if they're going to pick like some good 70s, like 70s, 80s Christmas music. I'm sure.
I hope so. If they don't do Feliz Navidad, they've missed a great
I was going to
opportunity.
say they've got to do Feliz Navidad. Like that's got to be one of them.
Absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
Or,
sorry.
Go ahead. Well, I was just thinking, what is that George Michael song? Last Christmas. That would be a great one too.
I feel like that would be something that Peter Quill would have jammed out to, right? Like in his cassette tape. Absolutely. I was going to say, but we should talk about that reverse launch.
We should.
Oh my goodness. That is the coolest thing ever. I was trying to look at stats. Evan, you might have some like true stats on that. Like as far as, I think I read maybe that's like the first reverse launch in Disney or the fastest or something that like is unique, right, to the reverse launch. But I was going to tell anybody with long hair, you want to tie your hair up before the ride starts, because I did not. And it was literally encasing my face like for the first like few minutes, like few seconds of the ride. So like you do miss stuff because your hair is literally, and you want to take your ears off. I didn't take my ears off. And so part of it went missing. Not these. I had really cool Guardians of the Galaxy ears. And so part of it flew off. So you definitely want to take anything loose. If you're wearing a lanyard or anything like that, it needs to come off because it's going to be everywhere. So
that is a pro tip, because our first on-ride photo, you can't see Ginger's face because her hair, because it all came around, you know. So that is an excellent pro tip
photo
right
ops. Absolutely. That's another reason, not only for like practicality to be able to see, but you want your picture to be nice. So you need your hair off your face. So
that's right.
You want your photo pass picture to be seen. So do you know any stats about the reverse launch, Evan? Because I don't have them in front of me.
I don't, but as you were saying that, I was sitting there thinking, and I can't think of another coaster that has a reverse launch like that.
There's something. I wish I had my notes. I had notes on this ride because I had also done a nice blog post for Marvelous Mouse Travels as well, and I had some stats in there, but I just don't have it in front of me, and I can't remember exactly. But it's a cool.
Expedition Everest has that part where you go backwards, but it's not anything like this.
You go from like zero. I think it's 60, right? Is it 0 to 60 in like seconds in the reverse? So I mean,
it's pretty awesome. I know that
your hair will tell you. So it's a very cool ride. And then, I mean, we could kind of segue into family friendly if you want. Did your kids ride it?
So our oldest did. Our 10-year-old rode it, and he rode it twice actually. So he wasn't like, you know, scarred the first time and didn't want to go back. So it definitely, you know, was probably one of the more intense rides that he's ever done, but it was definitely something that he enjoyed. And I think our 6-year-old, who is a little bit more of a daredevil, I think if she had gotten over her fear enough to actually get on it, she would have done great. But our son,
right?
She's son
doing
loved
it next time.
I think she might. She might. But our son did love it. He enjoyed it, and he really appreciated the story element. Like he loves those characters and getting to see them and all that. He thought that was cool.
So our daughter didn't ride it, not because of the ride itself, but because she was afraid of the antagonist in the storyline. That's why she didn't want to ride it. If she had ridden it, she would have loved it.
And this is a good kind of tip for kids too, if you can, and this is for pretty much any ride in Disney, and I'm sure we've mentioned this before, but if you can find a ride point of view video, this would be a situation where you'd want to show them, because I think that would help them get over maybe those fears if they could see it ahead of time. I always found my son, he's older now, but when he was younger, he was really timid. But if I could sit and show him some things, especially things that he couldn't see. So that ride is right completely in case you have no idea what you're walking into, right? So for like somebody that might be a little bit concerned, they could imagine all kinds of things happening in that building. But if you have a good kind of ride through, it would probably help them to feel a little bit more comfortable. So I'm sure you'll let your daughter watch some of it so she can get over, because we got it right. Like no worries about the bad guy.
That's right.
So
That's exactly right.
the Guardians always come through. But anyway, I do think, and then the ride itself, I didn't find like it was too intense that like for kids that, if they can do roller coasters, even, like a Goofy's Barnstormer type roller coaster, this is just like a little bit more intense than that, and a lot longer, because it's a pretty long ride too. That's the other thing, which is nice.
Yeah, that's an awesome part about it. I agree. This was one of the questions that Ginger had posted in the Facebook group earlier. Are there any big drops? And there's actually not. There are no big drops. There is that reverse launch at the end of that launch. As you're coming backwards, you go up like that, and then you just kind of like Donna said, you just glide.
You flow into it. Exactly.
Exactly. The whole rest of the ride, you're just on a slow descent, gliding around, looking at everything. And man, there's one point. My favorite part of the whole ride was the car turns sideways as you start to go down a little slope, and you have just like this brief moment of weightlessness as you drive down to your right. It's just the coolest thing. I'll save my review for the end, but there are no big drops. The drop on Barnstormer is bigger than any drop you'll have on Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yep.
But this is like 50 bajillion times better than Barnstormer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I agree.
And, the reverse launch, because I know that makes sometimes people nervous too. That was probably our son's least favorite part of it. But I think part of that is because the first time he wrote it with me. And we were literally to the part where we were about to go back, because he told me, he said, "Mom, tell me when the backwards part is supposed to start." And so I had literally just leaned over and gone, "Okay, buddy, this is the part where we're going to go backwards." And the ride stopped because I think they were helping someone who needed assistance onto a ride vehicle. And so they slowed everything down. And so we just kind of sat there in like anticipation for a few minutes. And so I think he got in his head a little bit with it. And then when it started back up, like normally, Disney will be like, "Okay, we're going to start again." Not this time. Like we just went and we went backwards, and he was like, So, but it's not like, I don't love to go backwards. And it did not bother me. Like on Hagrid's at Universal, I don't like the backwards part. Same thing on Everest. I don't love going backwards, but this was, to me at least, nothing like that. And it didn't bother me at all. So if you're nervous about the backwards launch, I don't think you're going to struggle with it.
Totally agree.
And he wrote it again, right? So
that's right.
He's cool. Yep. He's a cool kid. So, we could kind of talk a little bit about that backwards. I don't know what it was the next question. Yeah. So this one we might, I don't know what we're doing with time, but we have a few minutes to talk about this. So I have some feedback, and I think Evan, because we both kind of were talking about this beforehand. So it's weird. You can read online about motion sickness. I'm finding that most people that suffer from motion sickness do not have any issues on this ride. Now, you can do things that you would normally do to prevent it. If you are planning to ride rides and you do suffer from motion sickness, you should absolutely do anything you would have, for those rides, for sure, to prepare. I tend to suffer from vertigo. So this ride definitely made me dizzy at the end. So I was fine on the ride. But when I got off, I definitely felt it at that point. So my tips would be, I know there's a couple of different strategies out there on where to sit. I don't think they've confirmed exactly, because I've read some people say the front, you're better, in the middle, you're better, don't sit in the back, sit in the back. You might want to ask a cast member before you get on and ask them what their consensus is, because it may, they may be tweaking things, or they may have done a little bit more studying to see what's affecting people more. So you can definitely ask a cast member and just say, hey, if I'm prone to motion sickness or dizziness, where would be a good car that I can sit in, like location wise? The other thing I would say, if you're prone to dizziness, especially with the heat right now, stay really hydrated. It was a busy day because it was the media event day. It was 92 degrees. It was a heat wave similar to what's happening in Florida right now. So I think if you're hydrated, it will help. If you take things for vertigo, you can absolutely take some medication beforehand for it. And then when you get off the ride, this is the part where the reason I didn't get my footing. So I would say, and here's my tip for you, is when you get off, take your time. They're not going to rush you out. There's actually kind of like a little, I don't want to say waiting station, but it is the area where people will wait for family members to come off. So maybe take your time and get your footing there, and, have some water. There's cast members there. So, and I'm not doing this to scare you. I'm just kind of saying prepare, because the ride is absolutely worth riding. I got dizzy on it, and I'm so happy I did it. I don't regret riding it. I was fine after I got off the ride. But take your time, because you do have to walk up some stairs and then down. So just, if you just kind of let yourself get your footing at that point, I think you'll be good. Because again, it's probably the best ride I've ever been on. Even though it made me dizzy, I still would ride it again. So hands down. So Evan, what was your kind of take on that?
So spinning things get to me a little bit, like the teacups, that gets to me a little bit. This didn't get to me at all. I rode it 3 times, and thankfully, coasters, I'm weird, because like I could go ride this or Big Thunder Mountain or some much more intense coasters at a park down the street in Orlando, and I'm fine. But we had lunch at the Garden Grill, and just that slow turning of the whole lunch, and it's like when you're trying to read in the car, and you can see motion in your peripheral vision, that gets to me. Well, the 1 mile per hour turning of the Garden Grill got to me, and I felt rough the food was good, but man, that motion, it got to me. But I mean, then I could go ride this, and it didn't bother me at all. So. I'm a weird situation in that way, I guess, but I did see I saw one person when he got as a kid, and he got off the ride, and you could tell he wasn't feeling 100%. But that was the only person that I saw while we were there suffer from, some nausea or something when they got off.
I might have seen a few, but like I said, to that point, there are cast members when you get off, and they do have supplies for you. So if you need anything when you get off, they're there. So, but it's weird. I don't want to scare anybody from it, because like I said, it's an amazing ride. And there's no rhyme or reason. I've read a lot of reviews where people that do suffer from, very bad motion sickness were completely fine on this ride. So
I like Star Tours makes me a little bit motion sick. Jimmy Kimmel at Universal, I cannot do that ride. It makes me very, very motion sick. I was nervous about this going into it. I was like, and I didn't have any problems at all. And I had read some tips beforehand to look where it wants you to look, like keep your eyes kind of where the car, rather than trying to look all around. And I really do think that helped because I just kind of let the ride direct me where it wanted me to look, and I kept my eyes straight forward, and I was okay. So, there are several different reviews out there, and people always hype up the negative ones. Have there been people who've had problems on this ride? Of course. I think the vast majority of people have probably been fine, especially, even people like me who tend to get sick on things, or Evan or Donna too. We would all, ride it again. So take that and do with it what you will. But so I think we had a couple of comments.
Yeah. I was about to say, we've had a few comments specific to this topic, and we've had a whole bunch. This is awesome, by the way, seeing all these comments. Thank you all very much. Please keep commenting. It's a lot. It's cool to see the excitement behind the ride. Do you want me to, Ginger? Do you want me to just do the ones about this or all of them?
Sure. Let's just do the ones about this, and then we'll come back and get the
Okay.
others more towards the end.
So one person on Facebook said they took a couple of Dramamine and didn't have any issues on the ride. Another person said, my husband had to help me walk for a few seconds after the ride, but I love the ride and will ride it again. Another person said, I can't do spinny things. The Astro Orbiter made me sick, but this one didn't. So there you go. And then another person said Star Tours made them sick.
Yeah, Star Tours
that.
makes me sick, actually.
Yeah,
Yep,
I can
that's one of
understand
them.
that.
Mm-hmm.
It got to me one time. I had to close my eyes just to not be dizzy for a second. And those are the comments about this particular topic right now. We got some others that we'll come back to in a minute.
Yeah. And so, let's hop forward a little bit and kind of talk strategy about, how do you get on this thing? Like there is no standby line right now. And so I think a lot of people are confused as to, well, how do I even ride this? And so there's basically two options. So let's talk about virtual queue first, and then we'll come back and talk about individual lightning lane. But how does one join the virtual queue? Tips maybe for getting in the virtual queue?
So I'll be honest, I have not used the virtual queue. I've done the boarding pass, but I've not. So if you guys, how did you get on? Because
we did both.
Mm-hmm.
So the first time we ever wrote it, we wanted to be sure that we got on it, and so we did an individual lightning lane, that's the paid option.
Mm-hmm.
So and Donna, it sounds like that's what you did too, and that's where if you're an on-site guest at 7 a.m., you can get on and you can purchase through the app a time to ride it. Now, obviously, it's the newest ride. It's going to be the most expensive individual lightning lane. And so, it was pricey in order to do that. But we wanted to ensure that we got to ride it, and we wanted to be able to ride it at a specific time because we had other plans that day. So that was what we did, and it worked for us. We did get a couple of virtual queues, though. We actually were pretty successful with the virtual queues. We were there just a couple weeks ago. We were able to get a virtual queue one day right at 7 a.m.
Did you do the 7 a.m.? And then had you tried the 1 o'clock one
We
yet?
did 7 and 1. We actually got it both times, which I was really surprised because with Rise of the Resistance in the past, I've really struggled to get a virtual queue. And so with this one, I think it helped that, you can pre-select your party through the app, like starting at 6 a.m. the morning of your park visit, you can go ahead and pre-select your party. And I went ahead before 7 a.m. and tapped on join virtual queue at like 6:58. And then as soon as 7 o'clock came around, I just refreshed and I grabbed it, and it worked for me both times. So, we were able to get into the virtual queue. Now with virtual queue, there is still going to be a wait. So it's not like you're getting to wait in a faster line. You're going to have to wait for your boarding group to be called. And once your boarding group is called, you're still going through a queue and standing in a line. Some of your line time, you're out doing other things in the park. So, it's great.
So when we did the virtual queue, even then, we only had to wait. And let me say this, I think it's important that we identify where that queue ends and where the ride experience begins. So I'm going to put this screen back up there. Here's an image of the queue when you first walk in. This is as you're walking through the queue, and they have little hologram images and stuff up. This room right here is when I would consider where the virtual queue line ends. Because whether you have an individual lightning lane or a virtual queue, you go into this room together.
Right.
And so this is where essentially the ride experience begins. And you're greeted by Nova Prime, who you can see on the screen here, as well as I can't remember the Centurion, or I can't remember what they call them. And so, this is where I would say the virtual queue ends, is right here. So it actually, even with the virtual queue, it only took us I think 25 minutes to get through the virtual queue, which is not bad at all. And now the individual lightning lane, we had that twice actually. The first time I had to wait maybe 3 minutes, if that, in line. The second time, we literally walked straight in through into that room with Nova Prime. So it's very convenient.
Having these options are the best thing I think that Disney's ever implemented. Because I think of back, pre these time, you would be standing outside in a queue for hours, right? Think about Flight of Passage when that first opened over at Animal Kingdom, and those lines were like 3-4 hours long easily. So having this virtual queue option when they introduced it with Rise of the Resistance was the best thing, and now having the option to do both. I think it's going to end soon though, right? The virtual queue is I don't know if that's indefinite, right? I think the virtual queue will end and it will become an individual lightning lane. Is that right?
Yeah, I think kind of like they did with Remy,
Yeah.
eventually they will get rid of that virtual queue. I don't know, at least maybe they have released it, but I don't know when, but that would be my guess. Yeah, for sure.
But the other thing too, to point out too, is with the virtual queue, you've got the two chances. You've got 7 a.m. You don't have to be in the parks. You can do that right from your surrounding area. And Ginger gave some really good tips. And then the 1 o'clock, it's really funny because I did it for Rise of the Resistance. It's funny when you're in the park and around 12:55, all of a sudden you see everybody kind of stop and they start getting on their phones and they pull over to like the side and it's like this weird thing happening in the park and everyone's like on their phone. So so that you do have to be in. You have to have already been in Epcot. You have to be like on that in that park to be able to get the 1 o'clock.
And you do, even for the 7 a.m., you do have to have a park pass reservation for Epcot for that day. Right. And also, too, another thing that can be a really good tip for people, if you're staying at a deluxe or a deluxe villa on-site hotel, and it's a night when Epcot has evening extended hours, there's actually a third virtual queue chance at 6 p.m. that's only for those people. So if you happen to miss it at 7 a.m. or 1 p.m., you can try again at 6 if you're at a deluxe or deluxe villa on those particular nights. And so that can be another great way to get to ride it if you don't want to pay for the individual lane. So we were a yacht club. We got the opportunity to do that too. And so, it's a great option, I think, to have.
And then the park is so much cooler at night, right? So as far as like the sun's down, it's just a cool park to be in at night too. I love Epcot. Sure. I could be in Epcot every day, but it's just a very cool experience at night at Epcot as well.
Absolutely. So let's see. I think we've had a couple of comments about virtual queue. So while we're on this one, why don't we go ahead and pull those up and check those out? Okay, perfect. Success with the 1 p.m. Yeah, sometimes it is a little bit easier to get that afternoon one than it is the morning. Yep, another one person had success with 1. Okay, cool. So yeah, that's a good little backup too. If you do happen to get a glitch, you've got that chance later in the day, which is nice. Yes. Okay. So that's an important thing to keep in mind when you get these virtual queues, which again, that's the free option. With that individual lightning lane that you purchase, you get to choose the exact time that you're going to go do that. With the virtual queue, you get like an estimated time that they're going to call you back, but that can change. It can move up sooner
as you're checking it out, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Or it can even be later, because it just depends on how quickly they're getting people through. Like I know that happened. Something similar to this happened to us. We had been told it was a later time, and then it ended up being earlier, and it conflicted with some other plans that we had. And so, if that does happen, you can, like this person did, you can speak to the cast members, and just let them know, hey, I have conflicting plans. And most of the time they're pretty good about working that out with you. But just know that with that virtual queue, that can happen. So just be prepared for that. Yes, there is for deluxe and deluxe villa guests, on-site hotel guests, if it is a night that Epcot has evening extended hours. So it's not every night on that schedule, evening extended hours for that park. If you're in those level resorts, you can do that. Let's see. Yep, for sure. Just refresh and tap
is of
and go
the
through.
Essence. Yep, don't even read. Just go and pray. I also have I usually have somebody with me. So I have them pull up the world's clock on their phone. And so they have them counting down literally from the world's clock. So I'm refreshing and I know that I'm doing it at 7 on the dot because it'll be gone in 3 seconds or a few seconds. So
like that.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
It definitely gets your heart racing if
Yeah.
you're your park day, right? It gets you going, it wakes you up. You don't need
up.
coffee after that.
That's right. So let's kind of wrap up tonight with just giving each of us kind of share our general review of how we think this ride compares to some of Disney's other experiences and just our overall review. So Donna, why don't you go first since you were our media event specialist?
So I'll probably repeat some of my points. I absolutely loved it. It's probably my favorite ride there, tied with Tower of Terror. So Tower of Terror is my top ride, but this one is just so different than Tower. And I am a big Marvel geek as well. But I just thought everything about it was amazing. I think they really knocked it out of the park on this one. They put thought into every part of this. It wasn't just like, let's build a cool roller coaster. No, I mean, there's so many different aspects to it. And it's one of those rides that you can ride over and over again and have a different experience. So I think that's really neat. Loved it. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Ev, why don't you give your review next? I'll go last.
So if we're talking about just the ride itself, like when you get on the coaster, this is my new favorite ride at Disney World. It is the funnest ride as far as the ride itself of any ride in Disney World. If we're talking about the whole experience, the whole ride experience, it's my number 2. I think that Rise of the Resistance, that is truly an experience. It's not just a ride. I mean, the whole thing is 15 minutes long from the start to finish. So it's incredible. Now I will say that the queue, the pre-show for Guardians of the Galaxy is extremely well done. It was close. I mean, it's like 1A, 1B kind of thing with Rise of the Resistance, but the theming of the queue line, especially like in the boarding area, when you're getting in at Guardians, it's so well done. But it's awesome. I mean, it's awesome. I keep going back to what Donna said earlier about gliding. I mean, that's the best description I've heard yet of it, because and then when you hear it, burn, baby, burn, and you're like, just gliding along.
You just feel like you're dancing through
yes.
the ride. It is and they make you like that you're like kind of going, yeah, I agree.
Yes. I mean, you can't help but smile. I mean, it's just so much fun. And the track itself, it is hands down worth the price of an individual lightning lane. Easily worth the price of it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. When I rode it first because we had to do a swap out situation because our 6-year-old didn't want to ride it, and so I went first. And when I walked off the ride, I looked at Evan and I said, "Move over, Rise of the Resistance. I think there's a new favorite in town." Because at first it did it,
and that's saying a lot coming from her. She loves Rise of the Resistance,
and I am a huge Star Wars fan. And so but the next day we got the opportunity to ride Rise of the Resistance and Guardians in the same day, like almost back to back, just a couple hours apart. And so I was like, okay, having experienced both in the same day, I still think Rise of the Resistance is my favorite just because of the immersive storytelling aspect of it. However, Guardians is like right there, just very next in terms of my favorite ride in the park. And I love what I think it's going to do for Epcot, because Epcot has been one of my favorite parks, if not my very favorite park for a really, really long time. And I feel like Epcot sometimes gets like underappreciated. People are like, oh, you can skip Epcot. There's nothing there. There's tons there.
Don't
but
skip
I think
Epcot.
Yeah, don't skip Epcot. We did a whole video on that very topic, several weeks ago. If you want to search it in the group, you can find all the reasons not to skip Epcot. But like, I love that because this ride is there. I think that's going to pull more people to Epcot and give them the opportunity to appreciate how awesome Epcot is and how awesome Epcot's going to continue to become as they're adding more and more to it. So it's I think the first stage in kind of the evolution of Epcot, and that's really exciting.
I want to add one other thing because I just thought of something that and somebody just commented, Rise of the Resistance is amazing, and I totally agree. Totally agree. I still think, if I had to rate them, that'd be my number one. But I think this is actually an important point too. As after we rode both down there just this past 2 weeks ago, Ginger asked me which one is my favorite now, and I said, that's a really good question. And here's the thing: having ridden Guardians of the Galaxy now, if I were to go to Hollywood Studios and I didn't get to ride Rise of the Resistance, I would be disappointed. But I would still feel like I'd been, to Disney World at Hollywood Studios. Now, if I go to Epcot and I don't get to ride Guardians of the Galaxy, I will feel like I missed out on something.
Like, wah, wah. Right. You didn't get the
Exactly.
whole day, right? The whole experience in.
Exactly. And so I
agree.
think that's an important point to make too. That it's awesome. I mean, it is worth the price of admission just to get to ride it.
For sure.
Can I ask something too? Because you touched on it also, Ginger. Just how did the ride swap work on that? Was it pretty seamless? I'm sure everybody would be curious to know about that. And you got to test it.
That's a great question. So it's not like the traditional ride swap where like you get to go through the queue together and then there's a separate waiting area. You stay outside if you're the non-riding party. So like when we had our individual lightning lanes, I scanned in for mine, went through the whole process. And then Evan went in and scanned in for his and went through the whole process. And, it is a long ride. And so we actually were not able to get within our window, like our hour actually expired, our return time. And they said it wasn't a problem. Like if you have purchased that individual lightning lane, even if your hour window has technically closed, they're still going to let you on, which is really good to know. Because we thought we'd get to go through the queue together like you typically do. And so we didn't get there until like 20 minutes before our window was supposed to close. And then we were like, oh no, it wasn't a problem at all. And the same thing with with virtual queue, there's a little, like brown umbrellas kind of off to the left of the exit, and you go speak to the cast member, tell them that you need a rider swap. They will pull up and see that you have a virtual queue, and they will put a rider swap pass on your My Disney Experience account, and then you can come back and pretty much anytime. Like I didn't use mine immediately. It was still there a couple hours later. So, you have the opportunity to come back, but you don't go through the queue together. One party stays outside while the other rides.
And then that allowed your son, right, to ride twice. So
yeah, he got to ride twice.
Yep, that's awesome. And your daughter stayed back because she was like, nope, not doing it today.
Yeah, she's like, not gonna be around the big celestial. She was not about that. So
it's so funny that they get these little notions in their head and then they just psych themselves out. She'll do it next time.
She will. Evan, have we missed any comments that we haven't looked at?
Yeah, this has been awesome. So right at the beginning, we had people chiming in, and Stephanie, thank you for joining us. Hope that you got to learn some stuff about the ride, and we're super excited that you get to ride it next month. We hope you love it.
We're jealous. I'm jealous because I won't be back for a little bit, so I'm jealous.
Amen. I'm right there with you. Let's see. Hey guys, can't wait to hear about the show. I hope that you got some valuable info about it. I thought this next one was a really good comment. This person said it was cool because of the way it spins. If you're in the back car, at one point it feels like you're in the front car, and that's exactly right. So if you start when you board the ride, if you're in the front car, as you go up the incline, and then as you circle around at the beginning where you launch off, if you're in the front at the beginning, you actually are in the back of the launch. And then after the launch, you slowly spin around and then you're back in the front again. And so if you get in the back car, then when you're at the launch, you're at the front, closest to the action. So that was a really good point. I'm glad that person said that. Thank you for saying that. Let's see. Then we had the Dizzy comments and tips and strategies. One person says Star Tours bothers them as well. Let's see. This person, this was about the trying to get the virtual queue. This person said they used their wireless connection and not Disney's Wi-Fi, and that's interesting.
Yeah, same. Yeah, I did the same.
There's a lot of strategies out there, and they say do a test. So if you're in your room, maybe go out on the balcony if you have a balcony, or go out in the hallway. Like you kind of see, you can do a speed test. I've never gotten that technical, but I'm thinking that when it's milliseconds, that could help make a difference.
So it looks like there's one other comment, but there's a little dialogue box over it, so I can't see it. So just so everybody knows, a little behind the scenes action in Sundays with MMT here. I always make sure that there's nothing like inappropriate or something in the comment before I put it up there, and I can't see this one. So this is an experiment here. Let's see if. Oh, there you go. it's the
emoji.
thing.
It's a thumbs up.
Yeah, it's a little drink.
Beverly
is that to the Beverly drink?
Yeah, and the Club Cool, isn't that what it's called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So that's
if you've never tried Beverly, don't.
Or
It's not great.
And make somebody else do it and trick them, because we've done that. That's the best. So
it is notoriously bad, and
it's Italian, right? Like some sort of Italian soft drink, I think.
Yeah, it's somewhere,
and I'm sure there's somebody that loves it somewhere.
Probably.
Sure. I think it's a very acquired taste, but anyway, that's a fun experience.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Yeah, for sure. Awesome. Okay. Well, I think that's all. Well, thank you all so much for watching with us tonight. Thank you so much for sharing your comments. We always love the engagement. Keep in mind that if you are planning a trip to Walt Disney World, that it is no more expensive to book through one of our agents than if you were to just go on Disney's website and book that trip yourself. But when you book with our agents, you do get, people like Donna who have the opportunity to go on media events and experience these things before they're open to the public. You have, the combined knowledge and expertise of over 250 agents, many of whom have ridden the ride and can kind of do like what we did tonight and share from their personal experiences. So all of that expertise comes to you at no additional cost. So it really is a win for you as a consumer to make sure that you book through an agent. So if you would like contact information, if you joined us a little bit late, you can find all of that back at the beginning of the video. If you're happening upon this video when it's no longer live and you have questions, you can still pop those into the comments. We do monitor them after the fact, and so we can come back and address that with you at a later time. But for right now, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time in our Disney Cruise Line group. So if you're not a member of that group, go find it and join right now, because we have another team of agents who's going to be on the inaugural sailing of the Disney Wish, which is their brand new cruise ship. And so on July 5th, which is not a Sunday, it's a Tuesday, but because of the holiday weekend, it's going to be a little bit different time. We are going to be having them give us their overview of their experience. So if you're interested in a Disney cruise, specifically if you're interested in learning all about the Wish, feel free and join us for that session. That will be our very next session. And so we hope to see you again really, really soon for a Tuesday edition of Sundays with MMT. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.